wasn't planning on making a review of Death Note because frankly I don't deserve to. I haven't watched a single second or read a single page of the source material, but after having witnessed this fucking atrocity of a film, I think I can safely say I'm convinced that I know significantly more about Death Note than anyone who was even remotely involved in the production of this movie. For those of you whose experience with this property mirrors mine, Death Note is a manga and subsequent anime series about a boy named Light who finds a supernatural journal that kills whoever's name is written on the pages, while he's pursued by an idiosyncratic but technically brilliant detective named L. Both the original comic and the anime are frequently cited as one of the best of their kind. 2017's Death Note, on the other hand, is about a mincing washed-up child actor getting bullied by his girlfriend while a crazy black person runs around wearing his hoodie indoors, yelling at people and jumping on things, and it will most likely be remembered as one of the worst adaptations ever made. The first few minutes of Death Note, and I'm just gonna call it Death Note from now on, you know exactly which one I'm talking about, are deceptively fun in a shit kind of way. The unironic adherence to the kind of tropes you see in trashy, super serious high school dramas, combined with Nat Wolff's horrendous acting, led to some great unintentional hilarity. Unfortunately, this is all before Light first makes use of the titular Death Note. From that point on, it became abundantly clear that nobody within the 20-mile radius of this film's production knew what the fuck they were doing. The first death in Death Note is an impossibly intricate Rube Goldberg machine that results in a car crash and a slow-motion shot of a veritable gallon of CGI blood and brain matter being splattered across a sidewalk with the main character unblinkingly watching from a distance. Literally 2 scenes later, he's approached by a girl he'd met only once before, just straight up tells her he's got a magical book that kills people, whereupon she, without any hesitation or skepticism whatsoever, decides that they should start holding hands, making out, and killing hundreds of random people across the globe. And yes, it's as contrived and stupid as I'm making it sound. There is absolutely no effort put into making these characters' transitions from normal high school students to sociopathic serial killers believable. It's just a formality for these people, an excuse to film a cheap Final Destination knockoff that edgy 12-year-olds can project themselves onto. Or at least that seemed to have been the idea for the first half hour before the movie decides out of nowhere that it wants to be about the tortuous teen romance between the 2 leads, all the while cutting back to Elle eating gummy bears and acting like an idiot. At this point, the actual usage of the Death Note stops altogether and the pacing slows down to an unbearable crawl as the 2 worst characters in the movie argue with each other over whether or not it's morally responsible to murder thousands of people indiscriminately. And then the movie turns into Blade Runner for some reason as Elle chases Light through neon-lit back alleyways and the soundtrack goes all Outrun for like 15 minutes, only to give way to a climax on a crumbling Ferris wheel like it's a fucking Mission Impossible movie all of a sudden. A scene that concludes with our 2 main characters falling to their deaths in slow motion, reaching out longingly to one another while sad pop music plays, as if this is what we're supposed to have been caring about this whole time. Some more stupid shit happens, and the movie spends its last 20 minutes recapping the previous 10, only to have the fucking audacity to bait a sequel as if to preemptively mock the audience for having wasted nearly 2 hours of their life and a fraction of their Netflix subscription on this fucking piece of shit movie. Now, all of that may sound pretty awful to you because it fucking is, but the most I could explain within the time constraints of this video would not even scratch the surface of the utter depravity of Death Note. Even without a source material to bastardize, this movie is still a disgusting mass of abysmal acting, cringeworthy dialogue, boring cinematography, atrocious editing, non-existent pacing, and one horribly written contrivance after another that no amount of potato chips could have possibly saved. One of the few generally recognized positive responses I've seen is that it's at least well directed, and you know what? I'll concede a little bit in that regard. If you showed somebody a series of screenshots from Death Note, they could be forgiven for thinking that it looks like a pretty decent film. You, on the other hand, would be an asshole for misleading them, but that's beside the point. It's clear that director Adam Wingard knows how to properly film a scene. It is, however, equally clear that when it comes to making a complete movie, he is fucking clueless. There's a scene in Death Note, it's pretty early on, where Light and his father are eating dinner at their home, and an elevated passenger train, colloquially known as an L, drives by, causing their entire house to shake. That scene is the closest that Death Note ever comes to being clever, and it's basically a fucking pun. Do yourself a favor, don't watch this movie.